I copy, thank you. And attention all personnel, the countdown clock will resume in 3 minutes, 50 seconds.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 9 minutes and holding, and as we just heard, our final polls from our Launch Director, Mike Leinbach, and the NASA Test Director, Jeff Spaulding, were completed with nobody reporting any problems at all. And at this point, we do have the first view of our live external tank camera. This is what we call our ET cam. This view is taken from a color camera mounted on top of Atlantis external tank. We'll be taking a live feed from this camera from now through launch and until the shuttle separates from the external tank about 56 miles above the Earth. The camera is expected to provide video for about, or live feed for about 30 minutes. The camera, unique to this mission, will provide this view of the nose of the orbiter and a portion of the right-hand solid rocket booster and the external tank. The camera actually offers the mission and launch team an opportunity to monitor the shuttle's performance from an angle never before experienced. The camera itself is located high on the external tank inside an aluminum fairing covered with protective insulating foam. The camera is 6 inches long and resembles a short, thin flashlight. Similar cameras have been flown on Deltas and Atlas rockets. Today's ET camera launch view will be downlinked from the tank during flight to several NASA data receiving ground sites and then relayed to the live television broadcast. Again, at liftoff, we will see the shuttle clearing the launch tower. At 2 minutes after liftoff, we'll see the right-hand solid rocket booster separate from the external tank. And then 8 minutes or so after launch, we will witness the orbiter separating from the tank itself. Should be a fantastic show. T-minus 9 minutes and holding. We have 2 minutes remaining in our scheduled built-in hold.
That is correct. It's on the hold short of gate 4, outside the tack limit line.
Understood, thank you. And the countdown clock will resume in 50 seconds.
This is Shuttle Launch Control, just a few seconds away from resuming the countdown for the launch of Space Shuttle Atlantis today. Again, this is a view of our new external tank camera looking down at the nose of the orbiter.
And that clock will resume on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
And we are at T-minus 9 minutes and counting as Atlantis is preparing for launch on shuttle mission STS112, less than 9 minutes away at this point on a return mission to the International Space Station. The ground launch sequencer has been initiated. NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding is about to call for the transmittal of stored pre-launch commands. T-minus 8 minutes and counting.
Fuel cells for your
Sam Melroy is flipping the switches in the cockpit to directly connect the 3 fuel cells to the essential power buses. And at this point, the orbiter access arm will be retracted away from the vehicle. This is the walkway used by the crew to gain entry into and out of the vehicle.
Atlantis OTC, Godspeed as you construct the framework to change ancient dreams into a reality among the stars. Thank you very much.
That was a note from our OTC, Jerry Goodson. T-minus 7 minutes and counting.
Go up, yes.
Second RF split, we'll be working 27 volume 5, section 121, section 27B, inhibiting redundant switch on GPCA, OI, and payload A.
Okay, copy. SP, entity, you concur with that?
SP concurs.
Okay, copy that. And GLS, please insert a hold at 5. GLS copies. And LPS, do you have a go to proceed?
Can work.
NTDSP, we don't...
And LPS, do you need to hold at 5 or this, or can we work it on the fly?
It's already working. Be done in less than 30 seconds.
CRPS, OTC,
It's complete.
start AP strip chart recorders. And that's complete. Okay, LPS, you report you are complete, and are you in nominal configuration? PLP, OTC, perform APU restart.
In work.
LPS, say again, please. LPS, MTD.
Go ahead.
Yes, are you complete with your reconfiguration?
We are complete.
And your nominal configuration to go for launch?
Affirmative.
Okay, and SP, you concur?
SP concurs.
Okay, copy that, and launch director, NTD.
NT is launch director, you're clear to proceed.
Okay, copy that. And GLS, we would like to remove the hold. GLS copies, that's complete. Okay, I copy that, and attention all personnel, we will continue to count at T-minus 5 minutes. We have resolved our issue.
And at this point, we're receiving signals from Mission Control in Houston.
Is complete, and I have 3 gray talkbacks.
Very good, copy.
And we have a go for auxiliary power unit start. And the launch team has terminated liquid oxygen replenish to the external tank.
Reconfigure heaters.
The final purge sequence of the main engines is now underway. The primary objective of this shuttle mission is to rendezvous and dock with the orbiting International Space Station and to deliver the next piece of the truss segment to the station. T-minus 4 minutes and counting. The final test of the flight control surfaces will be conducted now. This is a program pattern of movements designed to verify the readiness for launch of the engines and other flight surfaces.
Copy that.
Coming up on final aero surface checks of the orbiter's wing elevons and rudder. It's being completed at this point. This verifies the orbiter's hydraulic systems. Also, next, the 3 main engines will be gimbaled as a final test prior to launch. T-minus 3 minutes and counting, and everything is looking good for launch this afternoon. All systems on board Atlantis are operating with no problems reported. Final pressurization of the liquid oxygen tank located inside the external tank is now underway. The next event will be the retraction of the gaseous oxygen vent hood as it's slowly retracted away from the top of the external tank.
PLC copies, in work.
And everything continues to look good with the Space Shuttle Atlantis. And we are at T-minus 2 minutes and counting.
OTC, PLC, caution and warning, memory clear is complete. No unexpected messages.
In Atlantis, OTC, close launch your visors, initiate O2 flow. Give us a go for ET, LHC pressurization. Atlantis, roger.
All systems are go, and we are about 90 seconds from the launch of Space Shuttle Atlantis. T-minus 1 minute and counting. All looks good for launch of Shuttle Atlantis from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. T-minus 50 seconds. And we are transferring to orbiter internal power at this time. Atlantis is now running off of its 3 onboard fuel cells. Coming up on a go for auto sequence start. And we have a go for auto sequence start. Atlantis' onboard computers have primary control of all the vehicle's critical functions. T-minus 20 seconds and counting. 15 seconds. 13. 11. 9. 8. 7. 6. 5. We have both main engines start. 2. 1. We have booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Atlantis, building the station and our future in space.
Houston now controlling the flight of Atlantis.
Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Atlantis into the roll, the external tank camera placing the shuttle in a heads-down wings level position for that 8.5-minute ride to orbit. The Florida Space Coast disappearing as Atlantis moves into the correct azimuth for orbit. "33 seconds into the flight. First condensation pouring over the top of the orbiter as the 3 liquid fuel main engines begin to throttle back in a 3-step fashion to 72% of rated performance. "49 seconds into the flight. Atlantis already 2.5 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center, throttling up.
You are go and throttle up. Atlantis, roger.
The throttle up call from Capcom Ken Ham, acknowledged by Commander Jeff Ashby, joined on the flight deck by pilot Pam Milroy, flight engineer Sandy Magnus, and mission specialist Piers Sellers, Dave Wolf, and Russian cosmonaut Fyodor Yurchikhin seated down on the middeck. 1 minute, 20 seconds into the flight. This view from long-range trackers at Playa Linda Beach, north of the Kennedy Space Center, and now the external tank camera view once again. Atlantis 11.5 miles downrange, 17 miles in altitude, traveling 2,800 miles per hour. One minute, 45 seconds into the flight, about 20 seconds prior to solid rocket booster separation. Booster officer reports a good solid rocket booster separation. Guidance now converging. Atlantis' onboard computers commanding the main engine nozzles to gently swivel, aiming the shuttle for a precise target in space for main engine cutoff.
Atlantis, Houston, 2-engine TAL.
Atlantis, roger.
That call from Capcom Ken Ham acknowledged by Commander Jeff Ashby, indicating that if one engine should fail, Atlantis can make a transoceanic abort to Zaragoza, Spain. However, all three main engines continue to function normally. 2 minutes 50 seconds into the flight. Atlantis 72 miles downrange, 47 miles in altitude, traveling almost 4,500 miles an hour. Atlantis flying on the singular power of its three liquid fuel main engines, which are draining about a half a ton of fuel per second from the shuttle's large external fuel tank. Three minutes, 30 seconds into the flight. Atlantis now 110 miles downrange, coming up on the point of negative return, where the shuttle will be too far downrange and too high in altitude to return to the launch site in the event of an engine failure.
Atlantis, Houston, negative return.
Atlantis, roger.
And that call up confirming that Atlantis continues to head uphill. Capcom Ken Ham relaying that to Commander Jeff Ashby on board Atlantis. The orbiter and its 6 passengers on course and on time to reach the International Space Station on Wednesday. Atlantis now 176 miles downrange, all three main engines functioning perfectly, as are the 3 power-producing fuel cells and the 3 auxiliary power units, 4.5 minutes into the flight. The external tank camera was smudged over by the propellant from the booster separation motors. We may not have a usable image for the remainder of the ascent.
Press to ATO.
Atlantis, roger.
That call up from Capcom Ken Ham indicating that we can make minimal abort to orbit targets, minimal orbital insertion targets in the event of an engine failure. However, at the 5-minute 12-second mark into the flight, all three main engines continue to function normally. We should be rolling to the heads-up position shortly, enabling Atlantis to gain more favorable communications with the tracking and data relay satellite system shortly.
Atlantis, Houston, single engine, up 3.
Atlantis, roger.
Five minutes, 50 seconds into the flight. Atlantis now 344 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center, almost 70 miles in altitude.
Atlantis, Houston, single engine, Zaragoza 104, and press to MECO.
Atlantis, copy.
As Atlantis rolls to its heads-up position, that call from Capcom Ken Ham indicating that we can make normal main engine cutoff targets in the event of an engine failure. However, all three main engines continue to function normally. 2 minutes left in powered flight. Atlantis now 500 miles downrange, 66 miles in altitude, traveling at 12,000 miles an hour.
Atlantis, Houston, single engine, press 104.
Atlantis, roger.
That call from Capcom Ken Ham indicating that if 2 main engines should fail, we can still reach minimal orbital targets. However, all 3 main engines continue to function by the book at the 7-minute 15-second mark into the flight. Seven and a half minutes into the flight, Atlantis' main engines are once again being throttled down to limit the stress on the shuttle and its 6 crew members to that of 3 times the effective gravity. Atlantis currently traveling at a speed of more than 4 miles per second. Atlantis almost 700 miles downrange, everything looking very good for an on-time main engine cutoff about 45 seconds from now. Eight minutes, 5 seconds into the flight of Atlantis, 780 miles downrange, standing by for main engine cutoff, which will be followed a few seconds later by the separation of the external fuel tank. Main engine cutoff confirmed by the booster officer here in Mission Control, and normal ascent for Atlantis. And the booster officer reports a nominal separation of the external tank. Atlantis now moving away from its tank.
We saw a nominal MECO, ohms 1 not required. We saw L4D fail off, no action.
Atlantis, copy all. Left engine complete.
That call from Capcom Ken Ham indicating the failure of one of the small reaction control system jets on Atlantis. That is no impact. So after an on-time launch at 2:46 p.m. Central Time, 3:46 Eastern Time, Atlantis is now in its preliminary orbit, an orbit of 141 by 36 statute miles. That orbit to be raised and refined into a higher elliptical orbit about 45 minutes into the flight through the firing of the orbital maneuvering system engines. This is Mission Control Houston. We'll be returning the satellite momentarily to the Kennedy Space Center for our complement of launch replays of Atlantis' ascent to orbit, kicking off the 4th shuttle flight of the year and the 111th flight in shuttle program history. Included in that complement of launch replays will be a discrete replay of the external tank camera from launch through just past solid rocket booster separation.
Atlantis Houston for Pam, you are go for APU hide shutdown.
Copy. Sets in work.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, you're watching the initiation of our launch replays of this afternoon's launch by Atlantis that occurred about 17 minutes ago. Atlantis launching on time from Launch Pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center at 2:46 p.m. Central Time, 3:46 p.m. Eastern Time. The crew on board Atlantis, Commander Jeff Ashby, Pilot Pam Milroy, and mission specialists Dave Wolf, Sandy Magnus, Piers Sellers, and Fyodor Yurchikhin in the early stages of their post-insertion timeline as they check out Atlantis' systems, prepare to shut down the auxiliary power units, and prepare for a firing of the orbital maneuvering system engines less than 21 minutes from now to raise Atlantis' orbit and begin the process that will culminate in the opening of the payload bay doors and a go for orbital operations from Ascent Flight Director John Shannon here in Mission Control. The Mechanical Systems Officer here in Mission Control reports a good shutdown of the auxiliary power units as Atlantis' astronauts continue through their post-insertion checklist.